Sleep is undoubtedly one of the most overlooked tools to building an incredible physique. I would even say that outside of actually training, it is the most important aspect of continuing your health and fitness goals. Sure, nutrition is super important, but perfect nutrition without getting quality sleep would yield undesirable, suboptimal results. Personally, I found this to be true during my time in college. I would always make much more gains during the summer breaks where I could get much more rest versus during the school year where I'd barely get any rest at all. So today, we're going to actually tackle this issue of sleep and try to get an understanding of why it is so important in achieving our health and fitness goals. Apparently, it wasn't just me who struggled to get enough sleep. The lack of sleep, aka sleep deprivation, is a widespread serious issue. According to the CDC, 1 in 3 people in the US do not get enough sleep. So what is actually considered an optimal amount of sleep? The National Sleep Foundation actually recommends that adults aged 18 to 60 years sleep at least 7 hours each night to promote optimal health and well-being. So the question that we're left with is, what actually happens to us when we do not get enough sleep? How does sleep actually affect our gains and fat loss efforts, and how important could it actually be? Lucky for us, the current available research actually sheds a decent amount of light on this area. One 2011 study gives us a pretty solid range to gauge whether or not we're getting an optimal amount of sleep. In this study, the researchers split participants into 2 different groups. One group got 8.5 hours of sleep per night, while the other group only got 5.5 hours of sleep per night. Both groups were put in a controlled energy deficit. At the end of the study, both groups lost the same amount of weight. However, the 8.5 hour of sleep group actually lost 55% more fat and retained 60% more muscle mass than the 5.5 hours of sleep group. Once we look a bit further into the research, these findings shouldn't come as a total shock. When it comes to the differences in fat loss, one 2009 study suggests that reduced sleep by itself is an obesity risk factor, meaning a lack of sleep is a variable associated with the increased risk of becoming obese. The mechanisms behind this have to do with the hormones that are regulated while we are asleep. These superstar hormones include leptin, ghrelin, testosterone, and IGF-1, just to name a few. When we are sleep deprived, we tend to have lower levels of leptin. Leptin is the hormone that's responsible for making us feel full, and elevated levels of ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hormone that is responsible for making us feel hungry. With this combination, it's pretty easy to see how we can overeat and how a lack of sleep can lead to obesity. But what about the gains? How did the 8.5 hours of sleep group retain 60% more of their muscle mass than the 5.5 hours of sleep group? Well, the researchers in that particular study weren't 100% sure on what caused that disparity, but there are other studies that may offer some promising explanations. One 2018 study found that after just one night of sleep deprivations, muscles began to break down muscle protein at higher rates and found higher amounts of proteins that are responsible for fat storage. This study's results could help explain the disparity we saw between the 2 sleep groups. To go along with this, it is well known that our day-to-day testosterone levels can be decreased from being sleep deprived. Testosterone helps with a number of things like fat distribution, adding lean muscle mass, and even bone density. One 2011 study showed its participants' waking testosterone levels decreased 10% to 15% after reducing their sleep time by almost half. Combine this with feeling less full and more hungry, and it's easy to see how a lack of sleep kills our gains and why sleep deprivation is considered a risk factor in obesity. But not all hope is lost. There are different steps we can take to improve our sleep quality and the overall duration of our sleep. I'll briefly discuss 3 different methods that I have found to be useful. Method number 1, control your exposure to light. Melatonin is secreted primarily through our pineal gland when it's dark, which makes us feel sleepy, and less when it's bright, which helps us feel more alert. Doing simple things like avoiding blue lights from screens 1 to 2 hours before bed, or even making your room as dark as possible with blackout curtains, or even using a sleep mask can be an effective measure to control our light exposure at night. Method number 2, exercise during the day. Exercise by itself has been shown to improve sleep quality. Typically, the higher the intensity of the workout session, the more we reap the benefits of sleep. But exercise raises our body temperature. Sometimes it makes our muscles ache and it releases cortisol. Too much of this before bed can lead to a restless night. It is often recommended by experts to limit exercise 2 to 3 hours before bed. Finally, method number 3, limit interferences with your body's natural sleep-wake cycle or circadian rhythm. Avoiding things like super long naps that would cause you to go to bed later can actually help you. If you do need to nap, short 15 to 20 minute naps in the early afternoon seem to be okay. Having a consistent wake and sleep time can also help limit interferences with your body's natural sleep-wake cycle. This helps your body's internal clock and optimizes the quality of your sleep. For more tips involving getting more quality sleep, I recommend visiting sleepfoundation.org. This site has much more information than I've shared in this video, and I'm sure it could help at least one more person out. And that's it for today's video, guys. I really appreciate you sticking it out to the very end. If you enjoy this type of video, please subscribe, like it. It'll help someone else out. And that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you guys next week with another video. Peace.